I think I readily have to recognize the Executive Secretary of the Board in the person of Engineer Felix Omashola-Ogbe, who's unavoidably absent and here represented by the Manager, Infrastructure in the Human Capacity Development Directorate of the Board in the person of Olusegun Shiba Esquire. Please put your hands together as we recognize him. I also have to recognize Professor Chief and Chief Mrs. Sam Oyewari, the former Minister of Information and Culture. Please give him a resounding round of applause. And another of our distinguished legal luminary here in the house is an uncle. I actually didn't spot him until I was there at a vintage position. I'm talking about a gentleman after my heart, Professor Mike Ozekhome, SAN. Give him a resounding round of applause.
Trying as much as possible to work according to time, we'll move on to the chairman of the occasion speech, talking about the 14th President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, His Excellency, Dr. Goodluck Jonathan. A round of applause, please.
Thank you.
Thank you. Please be seated. Please be seated. Well, I will not go through a lengthy protocol because of time. I think when I look at the program, I think the organizers were over-ambitious. The number of speakers, I don't think we'll be able to meet up. So people have to really cut down their time. But let me appreciate the presence of His Excellency, the Deputy Governor of the state, here representing the governor and also representing himself. So thank you. And let us also appreciate the vision of the CEO of Wellman Group and the spouse. Thank you for this vision. We're quite pleased with that. We have members of the National Assembly here with us, Senator Benson Agadaga, who represents me in the Senate, is also here. And you know, there are other senators here, there are other members of the House of Rep, there are state government functionaries here, serving and former. And let me appreciate the array of our traditional rulers. I'm quite happy with Chris for bringing all our traditional rulers. And we have very senior citizens and distinguished gentlemen here. I will not take much of the time because it's not my day. I'm not the one to give the keynote address. And I don't intend to convert the chairman's opening speech to a keynote speech. But I am quite pleased to be a part of this program today. I thank Deacon Chris, the Managing Director and CEO of the Wellman Group, and his management staff for inviting me to this year's Wellman Colloquium, which is focusing on Nigeria's growth and development experience. First and foremost, let me congratulate you from a humble beginning to 20 years of successful operations. As you have just told us your story, let me congratulate the Wellman Group for reaching that level. And again, looking at the topics to be discussed, these are topics that governmental organizations and groups may arrange for a private sector to come up with this colloquium to interrogate issues that have to do with managing the states and improving the quality of life of our people is rare. So we have to commend you for that, your vision. I'm happy to be the chairman of this conversation on the subject that lies at the heart of our collective aspirations and responsibilities as a nation. First, let me commend the Wellman Group for its commitment to Nigeria's content development, which is my administration's pioneering. Just like the Master of Ceremony have already said that. And what made me to take that very seriously is that when I was the Deputy Governor of Bayelsa State, I led a trade delegation to China. And because we're from Bayelsa, myself and some of the commissioners, we asked them to take us to the oil cities. We went through some of their museums, and we were briefed about the oil activities. And we realized that oil was discovered in Nigeria before China by the same Western companies, 2 years before China. But as at the time we visited China, when I was the deputy governor, that was, I think, 2000 or so, more than 80% of the needs of the oil industry then were produced in China. In Nigeria, the only thing that was produced in Nigeria are the laborers. Every other thing has to be imported. If any oil company need a valve, they'll go from their home country. A little pin, they'll go from the home country. So you see that if our company, whether Shell or Chevron or Ajip or so, say, oh, we're investing $500 million in the project in Nigeria, you really see that the amount of money that impacts on the local economy is just about 50 million. The rest goes to support the economies of their own countries. And I had the feeling that that will not lead to our own development. We must come up with programs that will encourage production of the needs of the oil company. In fact, when I proposed to Obasanjo, like the MC mentioned, I wouldn't want to go into details. I said we should call the oil engineers. Let them categorize the equipments we need into 4 categories, A, B, C, and D. And we should give them time limits, that from this time to this time, D must be produced locally. From this time to this time, C must be produced locally. From this time to this time, B must be produced locally. Let us leave A out. Maybe things that have to do with radio activities and so on could come from anywhere in the world. But that's a long story. So I'm happy that with the signing of the Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Board law, Nigerian companies are doing very well. And the Wellman is a good example of that. And today we are here to interrogate subjects that interest all of us. The issue of Nigeria, an X-ray of the Nigerian project and the panacea. I'm quite pleased that we have very, very competent people. When I heard about Professor Mike Ozekhome, my good friend, and the others I saw in the letter that was sent to me, I say, okay, this is a project that I also like to get involved. So they will really interrogate these topics very well. My duty as the chairman is just to flag it open. And as I earlier said, the chairman's speech should not be a keynote speech. But let me point out one key thing. For us, for me, maybe looking at the political angle, the greatest problem we have in Nigeria is the unity of this country. And until we get that done, it will be difficult for us to even develop. I believe very sincerely that colonial masters that talked about the amalgamation in 1914 have a good reason for that. Sometimes, though I've not read about the reason why Nigeria was amalgamated, but sometimes when I looked at issues, I believe that they looked at the geography of Nigeria, our ecological environment, and believe that when you move from the Atlantic coast with the marine resources, transportation across the world, and the resources of the ocean now with the slogan of blue economy, then you move through the mangrove forests, the mangrove swamps of the coastal areas, through the rainforest of the southern Nigeria, move into the Guinea savanna. Of course, in the rainforest area, we can grow then rubbers, cocoa, oil palm trees, then move into the Guinea savanna, the Sudan savanna, and there where you can grow your greens, your groundnuts, your cotton, and others, and you move to the Sahel savanna, where you can have massive ranches for cattle. I believe colonial masters believe that bringing all these ecological zones under one country will support the economic development of the place better. In the south, the main foods we produce are tubers, yam, tubers and cones like yam, cassava, cocoyam, potato, and so on. These are food items that you can hardly preserve for more than a year. For a plantain, you hardly keep for more than a month. Though you can use some chemical fumes to suppress the ripening of the plantain, but you just cannot store it. If you move to the savannah area, they produce grains. Grains, you can store them for 10 years plus. So there must be a reason why these people felt that bringing these two parts, the rainforest area and the savannah, together would form a better country. But that now creates a country with so much diversity. Diversity of the human beings and diversity in terms of religion. Then from the amalgamation to date, we have not been able to develop ourselves to the extent that we see ourselves as one. That unity is lacking. And like political scientists will say, yes, Nigeria, we are a state because we have laws, constitution, and other laws governing us. We are a nation because we have national boundaries. To the east, we have Cameroon. To the north, you have Niger, Republic, and Chad. To the west, we have Benin. So we are bordered. We have that, so we are a country. But that the concept of a nation is not yet there. We believe in our own ethnic nationalities. So you see, in Nigeria, it's a conglomerate of small ethnic nationalities. And we are more loyal to these ethnic nationalities than to the nation. So to me, the Nigerian project that we are to discuss is, yes, these nationalities, you cannot wipe them out. But then the boundaries between these nationalities must be narrowed instead of widening. What we have today is that the boundaries between these nationalities is getting wider. Most countries also have these different nationalities that come together, but over the period, they begin to see themselves as a nation other than a country. And until we begin to see ourselves as one nation, as the weak national boundaries between the nationalities, we cannot move anywhere. And I believe that leadership plays a key role at the state level, at the national level. Because if we must solve this problem, our political leaders must begin to manage this country as one. And every president that comes on board must take some steps. It's not something you will do overnight. You must take some steps to see that you encourage the unity of this country and reduce the conflicts between the ethnic nationalities. For now, the centrifugal forces that pull us apart are stronger than the centripetal forces that bring us together. And as long as we continue on that trajectory, you can hardly see us doing things well. Let me give an example of something I did in the office, when I was in office. If by the time I took over the leadership of the country in 2010, I realized that about 12 states don't have federal universities. But there is unwritten understanding that the federal government must provide every state of this country with a degree awarding institution. And what I would have done if I'm just a politician that wants people to clap for me was just to create 3 universities in the southern part, which I belong, and 3 universities in the northern part. And when I do that, everybody will sing my praises. This is a very nice man. Jonathan is good. Look, he created 3 universities in the north and 3 universities in the south, that he can balance the equation very well. But to me, that was not good enough. Because as at that time, in the southern Nigeria, only 3 states that had no federal universities. The 3 states that were created by Abacha, Bayelsa, Ekiti, and Ebonyi. Every other southern state had a federal university. But in the North, we had 9 states that had no federal universities. So even if I have done that, the whole South, every state would have gotten a federal university, but in the North, 6 states wouldn't have gotten a federal university. I said that I will not do things that people will just clap for me, but I must do things in a way that, because Nigeria, to me, Nigeria belongs to all of us, and Nigeria is my constituency. And that is why I say, okay, let us create not very big universities because of the resources, but let us create 12 universities. Because if I leave some states out, I don't know, the person that will take over from me may not be able to. And I say we must make sure that every state gets a federal university, and that's what we did. So if we are privileged to be political leaders, think that way, and that whatever you want to do, don't think about people clapping for you, because in most cases, people don't even understand the issues, but you there understand the issues. One of the greatest problems facing a Nigerian president is appointing people into political offices. It's easier to appoint ministers because the Constitution says every state must have a minister, and we have 36 states, so you can get 1 per state. But heads of various parastatals is always a problem. And if you don't take time, people will accuse you of being biased. Because you may go to the office Monday morning and you see a file from one minister that 2 parastatals are vacant. And he gives those appointments. Maybe it takes another month or few weeks, another minister may bring another file, 2 parastatals or 1 or 3 are vacant. Then you give those appointments. And when you do that, your brain is not a computer, because it's based on people they recommend. And if you don't take time before you look at it, you'll see that all the appointments are from one section of the country. What I did was, if a minister brings normally to the Secretary of Government at least 2 vacancies, I normally ask the Secretary of Government to wait until we have a minimum of 6. And when we have a minimum of 6, then when we are giving the appointments, we make sure that every geopolitical zone will have 1. And that really helped me. So a president, a governor, local government chairman, in all our appointments, we must take a deliberate effort to make sure that goes around. So that unity, all this is to reduce the forces that separate us and bring the forces that bind us together to be more pronounced. We must reduce the boundaries between the various ethnic nationalities and begin to see ourselves as one nation. These are the basic things that we must do even before we think about development and other key issues about the Nigerian project. Because we have people here from the finance, economy, law, politics, and so on, that are going to interrogate all aspects of this Nigerian project. But for me, the key, first and foremost, is the unity of Nigeria. First and foremost is for all of us Nigerians to believe that this country belongs to us, and that Nigeria, though it's a country, though it's a state, but that though it has multiple nationalities, but we must begin to think that Nigeria is a nation. Every country has historical reasons why they come together. Nigeria is not the only one why you have multiple ethnicity, multiple nationalities coming together as one country. But Nigeria, especially if you look at the West African coast that I understand more, and even compared to other parts of Africa, Nigeria still remains the number 1 country that we are yet to see ourselves as common citizens of Nigeria. And as long as you continue with that spirit, it will be difficult for us to develop this country. A member of the National Assembly will stand up and say, "My people." And I ask, who are your people? We must downplay this issue of my people and begin to take the whole country as your people, because we're a member of the Nigerian National Assembly, either Senate or House of Rep. You're not a member of the assembly of your people. Then go to the state assembly. And I believe this is the area that we need to look at it if we must get out of this quagmire. Presently, the forces separating us are too strong. We must weaken these nationality boundaries and see ourselves as a nation. On that note, as the chairman of the occasion, I now formally declare the conversation open. I thank you all.
The chairman of the occasion, former President, Dr. Goodluck Jonathan. Right in time with his speech. Thank you. We have an array of people here who would love to be recognized, but because of time, we're trying as much as possible not to get into it, but we just can't help it. We have Dr. Yanusa Tanko, National Coordinator, Obedient Moment globally, who is representing Mr. Peter Obi, presidential candidate of the Labour Party 2023. I'd like to recognize our royal fathers in the house, especially from Delta State. I'll start with His Royal Majesty Major General Felix Majogbero, retired JPJ CFR Orwe I. A round of applause for him, please. Also like to recognize His Royal Majesty Dr. Benjamin Ikechukwu Kiagborikuzi I. You're welcome, the Dean of Agbo. Nice seeing you for the first time. Thank you. I don't know whether this will be quite embarrassing, but the day they were taking you to the airport, you passed in front of our house in Benin. Good to see you. We'd also like to recognize His Royal Majesty, King Obukoho Monday, author Whiskey JP. A round of applause, please. Once I get the right name, I will surely. I would also like to recognize His Royal Majesty Matthew Ediri Egbe, Ohwahwa II. You're welcome. His Royal Majesty Dr. Emmanuel Ikemejenwa Sedeso JP, the Abe First, the Uwe, the Oviovuye. He's been represented. We'll get the full name later. More recognition we also have from Zaria, Kaduna State. I was there recently. The Danrimi of Zazao Emirate, Alhaji Jibril Abubakar Mohammed. You're very much welcome, making Delta State proud. Thank you so much. We have Senator Benson Agadaga, the Chairman Senate on Oil and Gas. A round of applause, please. Chief Solomon Igrakpata, Chairman, Delta State Board of Internal Revenue. A round of applause, you're welcome. We also have Senior Advocate of Nigeria, some of them are here, Asama Kadiri. A round of applause, please, wherever he's sitting. We also have Victor Ojemo. We'll get more names later. Yes. We'll continue later with that as we take a Wellman Group video presentation. Before that comes in, if you're a little bit tasty or you want something to keep you warm, you can go behind. We have things be served, especially tea and a little bit of snack. Just don't be rowdy about it. Thank you. The video, Wellman Group video presentation.
Wellman Group set sail with a clear mission to lead, innovate. 20 years ago, Wellman Group set sail with a clear mission to lead, innovate, and redefine excellence within Nigeria's marine industry. In the early days, we began with minimal resources, operating with a single 3-inch fairly used pump. Driven by determination and vision, we expanded from this modest foundation, gradually acquiring 6 additional pumps equipped with winches. These humble beginnings marked the start of an extraordinary journey, paving the way for Wellman Group's growth into a leading force in marine and heavy lift service across Nigeria. From our beginnings, Wellman Group has pioneered advancements in heavy lift operations, setting a high standard in the marine and heavy lifting business. Each milestone tells a story of complex projects delivered across the Gulf of Guinea, underscoring our reliability, environmental care, and commitment to safety. Our unique expertise in modular jacking systems, weighing solutions, and engineering calculations have redefined standards in the industry. Operating in one of the world's most active maritime zones, Wellman Group has revolutionized marine and heavy lifting service in Nigeria and in the Gulf of Guinea. She holds a record of moving and weighing the single largest structure in Nigeria till date on the Meren Sonam topside for Chevron with a total weight of 3,800 tons. By bringing advanced weighing systems and engineering calculations to every project, we support local economies, create jobs, and strengthen the region's position on the global maritime and heavy load stage. Our investments in state-of-the-art equipment, training of our workforce to conform to international best practices as we continue leading the way. Looking ahead, Wellman Group is driven by a commitment to continuous growth in human capital development. We embrace advanced technologies in offshore barges, mooring, weighing, and blasting engineering. Our vision is clear: to prioritize community development, transform Nigeria in the marine heavy lift business, secure hubs for maritime innovation while looking forward to new frontiers in the Nigerian project. The Wellman Group shoulders a team of dedicated, innovative, and committed workforce whose invaluable contributions to every project success cannot be undermined. As we celebrate 20 years of excellence, we extend our deepest gratitude to our dedicated team, trusted partners, and the communities supporting our journey. Together, we sail into the future, building a legacy for generations to come.
That's really more like it. Your Excellencies, distinguished personalities here present, royal fathers, public-spirited individuals here, captains of industries, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. The 10-minute video was just a snippet of just what Wellman Group has been able to do in 2 decades, and here we're celebrating them. Wellman has achieved a significant milestone this past 20 years in terms of excellence of operations in the oil and gas space, particularly in the areas of marine services and heavy lifting, as it's been told you in the video. They've been so competent in local content development, capacity building, recognition and awards to its staff and other critical stakeholders within its employ, expanding their services beyond the African shores. Expansion of services as well, financial growth. Of course, the chairman made mention of raising capital, and the banks are here to do that. And indeed, strategic partnership, which they have with the regulators as well as other critical stakeholders in the financial sector and the oil and gas space, even the host community. And this is an attestation of what Wellman has been able to do, bringing this array of distinguished Nigerians to come grace this event. Please put your hands together once again for the Wellman Group. Please, I've just been told I have to recognize a royal father here, His Royal Majesty, the Pere of Onwuegbuzie, Maine, First Vice Chairman, Traditional Rulers Council of Delta State. His Majesty, the Pere of Onwuegbuzie, Maine. Thank you. I also have to recognize the Air Vice Marshal Abdullahi Anderson Kasimu, PhD. Please put your hands together for him. Honorable Temlong George Nkwo, the Senior Legislative Aide to the Senate President, His Excellency Senator Godswill Akpabio. Please put your hands together for him. Dr. Mohammed Laminga Mohammed is a Senior Manager in the Nigeria Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission, NUPRC. That's our sister regulatory agency. Dr. Helen Taino Adebakin, President, Southern Women's Empowerment Forum. Engineer Sonny Eze, Dr. Akinwumi Akinfenwa, and also I'd love to recognize again, even for the opportune time, because local content is not just a sprint, it's a marathon. And it started with engineer Dr. N.S. Nwapa, the pioneer executive secretary of the Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Board, who actually encouraged Wellman. And it gave them the leeway to undertake its first operations, and today we're here to celebrate with them 20 years thereafter. On that note too, let me recognize once again the Executive Secretary of the Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Board, Engineer Felix Omashola Ogbe, here represented by Barrister Olugbenga Shiba, our General Manager in the Infrastructure Department of the Capacity Building Directorate of the NCDMB. Please put your hands together for all those distinguished guests I've recognized. How can I forget the money man? The Managing Director, Keystone Bank, Imam Hassan, here represented by Dr. Eukaria Ken Agbirigo, Director, Head Corporate Bank, South-South Regional Banking Space. Please put your hands together for the folks from Keystone. And also, as Royal Majesty Clement O. Ikolo, the Urukbe I of Ewurobo Kingdom. Please put your hands together for him. Okay, next is a keynote address by Her Excellency Arimaka Chihombori Kwo. I got it. Chairman has been able to educate me on how to pronounce your name since Sunday, honestly. So Her Excellency Arikana Chihombori Kwo. She's going to be speaking on the practical steps to lift Africa out of poverty. And like His Excellency, the former president of this great country, earlier buttressed, this is a burning issue in Nigeria. So how do we lift Africa practically out of poverty? Excellency Arikana Ko is going to give us that. You're welcome to the podium. Please put your hands together for her, ladies and gentlemen.
Introducing our keynote speaker, Her Excellency, Dr. Arikana Chihombori Ko. Dr. Arikana Chihombori Ko is a distinguished medical doctor, diplomat, and advocate for African development, and Pan-African unity. Born in Zimbabwe, she has lived and worked in the United States for many years, where she established a successful medical practice. In spite of her seasoned medical career, her true passion has always been to champion the cause of Africa and the African diaspora. In her role as the African Union AU Permanent Representative to the United States from 2017 to 2019, Dr. Arikana worked tirelessly to strengthen relationships between African nations and the African diaspora, advocating for the economic and political empowerment of Africa. She is a strong proponent of the vision of an integrated, united, and prosperous Africa, following the ideals set forth by the AU's Agenda 2063. A pivotal key advocacy area has been the promotion of African self-reliance, particularly in terms of economic independence. After her diplomatic service, Dr. Chihombori Kwao founded the African Diaspora Development Institute, ADDI, which aims to mobilize and organize the African diaspora to contribute to Africa's development. The Institute seeks to connect Africans abroad with opportunities to invest, innovate, and engage in Africa's socio-economic transformation. Dr. Chihombori Kwao's work has earned her numerous accolades, including awards for her humanitarian efforts and leadership in promoting African unity. She remains a powerful voice for African empowerment and continues to inspire a global audience through her speeches, writings, and initiatives aimed at fostering unity among Africans on the continent and in the diaspora. Ladies and gentlemen, our keynote speaker, Her Excellency Dr. Arikana Chihombori Kwao.
A very good morning to all of you. To the president of this amazing, great country of Nigeria, His Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu. To His Excellency, former President of Nigeria, Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, present today. To Sheriff Francis Oberewori, to Deacon Chris Ayowaye, who has been so graceful to let us all gather today in celebration of 20 years of excellence. To the Governor of Delta State, to all the majesties present today, the Royal Fathers also present, the CEOs of the many companies that are represented, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Allow me to take this moment to thank all of you for giving me 30 minutes to share with you a few words of wisdom, if I may say, as we celebrate and congratulate Brother Chris and his wife for 20 years of excellence. I must say, the presentation that we just heard from Brother Chris, an overview of how he had humble beginnings that have led to where we are today, humble beginnings that have led to where Wellman Group is today. It is indeed an X-ray of what it's going to take for Nigeria to lead Africa like Nigeria should. We also have heard from former President Jonathan an X-ray of true transformational leadership. Gotta drink some water. Let's make no mistake. If Africa is to progress, if Africa is to take a role on the world stage, it is Nigeria, and I repeat, it is Nigeria that is going to lead Africa onto the world stage. In 1963, Nnamdi Ezekwe joined the other African leaders at that time in Ethiopia to discuss the creation of an Africa that was united, an Africa that spoke with one voice, an Africa that had a single currency, an Africa that had a single military, an Africa that had a single stock exchange, an Africa that spoke with one voice. That was at the invitation of Emperor Haile Selassie at a meeting that initially resulted in the creation of an organization called OAU. But unfortunately, when our leaders went to Ethiopia, they were divided. Unfortunately, when our leaders met in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia in 1963, NATO was in full force. For the reason for their coming together was going to create something that was clearly going to go against the agenda for the Western world for Africa. So it is, they were divided into the Casablanca group, that was Guinea, Ghana, Mali, Egypt, Morocco, Algeria, and Tunisia. We also had the Monrovia group, who were the remainder of the 33 African countries. The Casablanca group was advocating for a united Africa that spoke with one voice, but because the others had tasted leadership, they had tasted the power, they said, let's slow down on this unity thing. Let's kind of take it easy. We'll get there eventually. So because the Monrovia group were the majority, they won. We often say, when the Casablanca group lost in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia in 1963, Africa lost. Year in, year out, the discussion of an Africa that spoke with one voice was tabled by the African leaders, and year in and year out, it was voted down. To this day, of the issues that our Pan-African leaders sat to discuss, which was the building of a united Africa, we have failed to build that unity. The question then becomes, when you look at from the African Union, down from one country to another, and even within the countries themselves, the inability of ministers, for example, to address issues that are pivotal to the development of Africa, if I may take the message home, help me understand why is it that right here in Nigeria and many other African countries that we're still using European textbooks. Why is it that we're still using the Western educational curriculum? Why is it we're still using the Western legal system? Why is it that ministers of culture have not insisted on repatriating our priceless artifacts, many of them from this country, Nigeria, from Europe? They visit European countries. They sit in meeting rooms while in the basement. In some cases, the remainders of their ancestors are sitting in jars in basements. Benin Kingdom, the Benin bronzes. Some of you heard of the Nigerian who went into a museum in London with his tools, and he was unscrewing a Benin bronze piece that was sitting in the entrance of a museum, and he says, "I simply came to take what belongs to me." Can I please see where they purchased this Benin bronze? Why is it that the African ministers of culture have not united and come together and said, "Europe, we will not engage you until this wrong is righted"? Why is it that our ministers of finance, they go to Washington twice a year to the World Bank? You all know very well that almost every African country, at a minimum, a third of their GDP, in some countries, way over 50% of their GDP goes to loan repayment. These loans have been paid 1,000 times over. Why are our ministers of finance taking a position and saying, "We will no longer come to Washington to discuss issues and programs and agendas that are detrimental to our own development"? Why is it that the largest voting bloc at the United Nations does not have a seat at the UN Security Council? Why do African leaders continue to attend the United Nations when there is no agenda that is there to move Africa? Why are we not standing up and saying, "Enough is enough"? I'm saying this to say, when you look at the common denominator as to why we are not moving forward as Africans, it's because we were defeated where it matters the most, which is the mind. What is it going to take for us to understand that until the African is awoken, until the African can see clearly, it doesn't matter where you put us, the top leadership to the lowest leadership, garbage in, garbage out. An African who is awoken, an African who is liberated, an African who understands that yes, I may be Igbo, yes, I may be Yoruba, yes, I may be Nigerian, but at every level, I must understand that there are certain issues that surpasses how I feel. So yes, you're Nigerian, but you're African first. So yes, you're Nigerian, but you got to understand there are issues that you must talk about and understand what matters to the Igbo people, what matters to the Yoruba people. But at a certain level, you have to come together, not as Yorubas, not as Hausas, not as Igbos, but as Nigerians. The president just reminded us that we must remember first and foremost, we are a nation. I was giving a presentation when one Nigerian said to me, "But Ambassador, why must we resort to coups like in Burkina Faso and Mali?" I said, "Son," he said, "let's do it like the Chinese. The Chinese came together." And I said, "Thank you for pointing out about the Chinese." I said, during COVID, the Chinese needed a hospital. The Chinese come together, and as a medical doctor, I remember that because I thought it was something remarkable. They built a 10,000 bed hospital in 1 week. A 10,000 bed hospital in 1 week. I said, "My son, Do you know of any Africans who are ready to work 24/7 for something that will benefit the Africans? Do you know of any Africans who are committed to do that? He said, Ambassador, you know, as Africans, we can do that. I said, may I rest my case? I'm saying this to say, until we understand that our minds have been colonized, that we are suffering from the disease of colonization, the legacy of colonization, that they systematically brainwashed us. I know many of you are probably saying, well, I'm not brainwashed, I'm good. Let me share with you an example of my own niece. She's a nurse, and she's attending a meeting in a conference room at her hospital. She sits in the front row, the last seat that was there. But while she was sitting there, another nurse, same level as her, who happens to be white, walks into the room, and she finds herself getting up to give up the seat to another nurse who is white. But as she was walking away, she realized that what she was doing, if her aunt, which is me, was there, I would have killed her. So she quickly runs back and sits back at her seat. But that's when she realized that she was colonized. The entire meeting, she says, Auntie, I was asking myself, why did I do something so stupid? She said, if a black nurse had walked through that door, it never would have occurred to her to give up her seat. But because it was a white nurse, something within her, like she's an automatic pilot of sheer stupidity, drove her into doing that. Too many of us are of that mindset. That is the same disease that a lot of our leaders are suffering from. They must realize that they're suffering from this disease, and until they change, until they wake up from this slumber, we will always have leadership that is not going to stand for us. The Berlin Conference, some might argue that it is a piece of history. No, it is not. The Berlin Conference is a policy that was put in place to see to it that Africa and her children are forever defeated. As long as we have a country called Togo, a country called Malawi, even a big country like Nigeria, as long as Africa is divided, our ability to build an Africa that is the most powerful continent on earth is going to be hindered. And that's what they did in 1884 when they spent 4 months in Germany talking about how to completely and effectively divide Africa. We are victims of the rule of divide and conquer. To what extent are we going to wake up to that realization? To what extent are we going to stand up and say, enough is enough? We have former President Jonathan here, who is fully aware of what ails us. And he did his part in making sure that we can move the Nigerian agenda and consequently the African agenda. Our youth are struggling unnecessarily while our own natural resources are funding educational systems in Europe. I use an example of what happened in Niger. When Niger realized that they're funding and supporting 33% of electricity needs in France through their uranium. Any extra, France was selling the same uranium at 200 euros per kilo, while forcing Niger to sell their uranium at 80 cents a kilo. So yes, Niger got up and said enough is enough. Moving forward, Niger, France, if you need our uranium, we'll sell it to you, but at 200 euros a kilo. Immediately, France went Niger went from making $1 billion a year from their uranium to 300 billion euros a year, uranium alone. Now multiply that by many other minerals. Are you beginning to see how easy it is for Africa to take care of Africa? If we can just look at some very practical ways of using our natural resources and stopping the pilferage, the stealing from the Western world, what is it going to take for our leaders to stand up and say enough is enough? And as I stand here today, the message to President Tinubu is to say thank you for not allowing ECOWAS to invade Niger, to invade Burkina Faso, to invade Mali. Those are children of Africa who have stood up and said the bully can be defeated, and they showed us how. They made it very clear that France, you are no longer welcome. France, you can no longer continue to steal and rob us in broad daylight. France, you can no longer continue to steal our lunch. That is the leadership that Africa is calling for, whether some of it agree with it or not. But that's where we are. These people are here, and they're not going to leave Africa freely. So what's happening in Burkina Faso, what's happening in Mali, what's happening in Niger must be supported, because the abuse of the Africans can no longer continue, and they're not going to leave Africa nicely. In Nigeria, the biggest enemy are the multinationals who are stealing from us in broad daylight. When is our leadership going to stand up and say enough is enough? Why do we continue to honor contracts that have been paid 1,000 times over? Why can't Africa come together and speak with one voice and stop the abuse? Our children are tired. Our youth, they can't take it any longer. And I'm glad we got President Jonathan here, because something has got to give, and we are counting on Nigeria to lead us. If Nigeria, some of the most intelligent, hardworking people I know are in Nigeria. The world knows that. Look at Nigeria. I was driving around with my sister. A beautiful country that has been painted so badly that everybody, when you are outside, you're told all the Nigerians are crooks. Why have we allowed that? Do we have our own media that countering all that negativity, all the propaganda designed to make sure that we are never in a position to dictate the prices of our goods, because we are seen as shithole countries? Nigeria, Mr. President, we're counting on this country. Because if this country does not get it together, Africa is going nowhere. Make no mistake about it. So leadership, the youth are saying, if you don't represent us well, we need to vote those leaders out. If that minister is not representing us well, vote him or her out. Because the abuse of Africa can no longer continue. Colonialism and neo-colonialism in this country can no longer be tolerated in Africa. Imperialism can no longer be tolerated in Africa. Let's stand up and speak for what Nnamdi Azikiwe and the rest of the Pan-African fathers had hoped to accomplish in 1963 when they went to Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. Let's send a strong message to our leadership that Africa has got to reclaim her place on the world stage. For if it weren't for the African, we must let the world know that the rest of the world would not be here. It is the black man and the black woman who gave birth to the world. Without Africa, the rest of the world could not be. So as we celebrate 20 years of excellence, this is a perfect example of what can happen when the private sector, with the proper support from the government in terms of policies, can do. Why is it that we don't have more of my brother Chris throughout Nigeria and, of course, the entire continent? We can do it. And today is a perfect example of what Nigeria can do, what Africa can do, what Africans can do as we take our rightful place on the world stage. Brother Chris has shared with you, when they thought they were going to bring expatriates who don't look like you and I to do the job, they failed. And Nigeria did not disappoint, because Nigerians have it all. They found a way. They found a way like Africans always do. So to you men, I humbly ask, being that you are the majority in leadership roles in all the governments, that if you can't get Africa right, if you can't represent us well, if you can't begin to listen to our children and their cries, well, I dare say it is now time for the women. We'll humbly ask you to move over. In Ghana, when the king of the Ashanti had been exiled and the elders had decided that they were going to give up the Ashanti golden stool in exchange for the king being brought back from the islands where they had exiled him. It took a woman, because you have to understand the Ashanti golden stool houses the spirit of the Ghanaians, of the Ashanti people. So when the British wanted to take this stool to Britain as the ultimate form of humiliation for the Ashanti people, it took a woman to stand up and say, you men, if you cannot come together to defend the golden stool, she was going to call upon the women. The women were going to organize. They were going to fight the British and defend the golden stool until the last one of them was down. She shamed the men, who then organized and fought the British and defended the Ashanti golden stool, which remains in the Ashanti kingdom to this day, thanks to one bold woman. We are in that moment, my brothers and sisters, excellencies and royalties, that something has got to give, and if you men are not going to defend us, we, the women, the African women, are going to rise, and we shall organize. Our children are crying. And we, as women, we're going to play our part. The question is, are you men ready? Or may we ask you to humbly move over? To the spirit of our ancestors, who we must never, ever forget, let's all accept that if we are going to truly lead our Africa, I'm asking all of you to have a serious conversation with the image in the mirror. And ask yourself, why do you think the way you do? Why do you feel the way you do? Why do you feel inferior to those who don't look like you? And yet you are the mother and father of humanity. The truth of the matter is, we have been brainwashed. Understand what has been done to you psychologically. Understand the subliminal messages that you are receiving every day. Messages that remind you that you are not as good as those who don't look like you. All of which, of course, are lies. The most powerful people on earth are Africans. And I'm not just saying it because I am an African. It is a fact that is well defined. Some of you may have heard the studies that were done based on the number of gene linkages in a species. The larger the number of gene segments, the more intelligent that species is. The largest number of gene segments found in humanity is 9. Guess which species has the 9 gene segments? It's Africans. The second largest gene species is 6. I won't mention who that race is. But the reality of the matter is, the studies have shown that the black people are the most intelligent, most resilient species on earth. So to all of you, as I leave this podium, I want to remind all of you that if we are going to make a difference and develop our Africa, we must support our youth. Our leadership must understand that they must be responsive to our children, otherwise we will vote you out. Let's remind our children and ourselves that we are the beautiful, intelligent, sophisticated, highly adaptable, and totally indestructible human beings. And on that note, I want to remind all of you that yes, we are Igbos, yes, we are Yorubas, yes, we are Hausas, yes, we are many tribes, but above all, we are Nigerians and we are also Africans. Viva Africa! Viva Africa! Viva Nigeria! Aluta continua.
Practical ways to leave Africa out of poverty. Our speaker, Her Royal Excellence Arikana Chihobori Ko. Another round of applause for her, please. With many of us sending our children abroad and not making them come back, that's a brain drain on Nigeria. If they go and come back to see what we can do about our country, it will be better developed. So let's think about it too. Another round of applause for this wonderful lady. Just before we have a musical interlude, because they say all work and no play, makes Ochuko a dull boy, not a dull girl, but a dull boy. Let me quickly recognize or give you this announcement. For many of us, we were expecting Mr. Peter Obi to be here, but he sent in a representative who'll be saying a few words to us, but we're also going to be getting a speech from him. There's a recording from him to let us know that he's supposed to be here. Sir, can we have it?
Is one whose reputation precedes him. His Excellency, Mr. Peter Obi, is a well-educated gentleman, business magnate, and a political astronaut with an admirable personality across the globe. Mr. Peter Obi, whose passion for the highest level of education has endeared him the courage to pass with honors the corridors of renowned, prestigious academic institutions, including Harvard Business School, USA, London School of Economics, LSE, UK, Institute of Management and Development, IMD, Switzerland, Kellogg Graduate School of Management, USA, SED Business School, Oxford University, UK. At the dawn of his business career, Mr. Peter Obi established himself as a prominent businessman and entrepreneur. Held leadership positions in several reputable companies, institutions, and organizations. His experience in business provided him with deep financial insights, contributing to his political reputation as a disciplined administrator and a leader with a strong focus on transparency and fiscal responsibility. From the yearning of the people for quality leadership in governance, Mr. Peter Obi, with an avalanche of business success, good intrapersonal and management skill sets, just to mention a few, soon positioned him as a beacon of light to the entire eastern region of Nigeria, and by extension, to the global market. Was undoubtedly the chosen one, who then became the governor of Anambra State in 2006, serving 2 terms until 2014. His tenure as governor is widely regarded as transformational due to his prudent financial management, which helped improve infrastructure, healthcare, and education in the state. Peter Obi became known nationally for his strong stance on anti-corruption and prudent management of public resources. His reputation earned him several accolades, including the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation Best Performing Governor on Immunization in 2012. As a frontline presidential candidate in the just concluded general elections, Mr. Peter Obi, whose mantra for good governance focused on economic recovery, youth empowerment, and anti-corruption, was globally remarked to have energized a large number of young Nigerians, earning him widespread support, especially from the obedient movement. Mr. Peter Obi remains a significant figure in Nigerian politics, admired for his integrity, discipline, and visionary approach to governance. His focus on transparency and financial prudence sets him apart as a leader committed to the long-term progress of Nigeria. Ladies and gentlemen, let's make welcome His Excellency, Mr. Peter Obi.
Well, he will be represented by Dr. Yunusa. Okay.
Congratulate the Wellman Group on their 20th anniversary. The Wellman Group as a company fits directly into my belief and vision of moving the country from consumption to production by their activities. By their activities, they contribute in building a better nation and employment of the people, which is what we want in this country. I urge them to continue in their good works. Let me also sincerely thank and appreciate our speakers, starting from our dear sister, Professor Kano, Professor Henrietta, Dr. Obi, and others. Thank you for being part of this 20th anniversary. I'm sure I'll be part of the 21st anniversary physically. Thank you for being part of it. May God Almighty bless this company, bless those who are involved in it, and bless all of you who are part of this 20th anniversary today. God bless you.
award from Mr. Peter Obi. He has a representative here, the National Coordinator, Obedient Movement Globally, Dr. Yunusa Tanko.
Thank you. I want to stand on the existing protocol, but I want to single out two individuals. The only president that in my lifetime I was able to buy a bag of rice at 3,500 naira, as against another president where we are selling and buying bag of rice at almost 100,000 naira. His Excellency, no other person, Dr. Ebele Goodnot Jonathan. Your Excellency, sir. Secondly, the chairman and CEO of the Wellman Company, Deacon Chris Iyawai, a humble gentleman, a brother, a friend, a competent person who represents all the divides. Deacon Chris has represented the mantra of the obedient movement, which is the consumption to production. Because you can see, he eats and drinks and wake up Nigeria. And that is the reason why he has been able to put up this particular wonderful edifice for almost 20 years. So imagine if we have all of these sectors being Nigeria all through us. Do we need anybody to help us in doing anything? Chris, thank you very much for leading the way. And his beautiful wife, Madam, thank you for being there for Chris. You've done a wonderful job. Ladies and gentlemen, His Excellency Peter Obi said I should say this, that Nigeria cannot continue like this. We cannot continue to wallow in poverty and continue to complain in our own bedrooms. We need good governance. We need people who represent the 5 C's, which is capacity, competence, compassion, consistency, and consolidation. And that is exactly what the obedient movement represents. So Chris, we are here, I'm representing as a point of contact over millions of obedient movement worldwide. Will support you, will be with you, will recognize your effort, will continue to champion your cause until Nigeria is liberated. He also said I should tell you that he has taken the mantle unsolicited to be your chiefs, to be the guest speaker of this particular occasion come next year. That nobody will take. So if you want to see Peter Obi, make sure you are in this hall next year. He will be with you, inshallah. Finally, it is important I make mention of this. Peter Obi does not only represent the interests of Nigerians, he represents the interests of our forefathers, Tafawa Balewa, Obafemi Awolowo, Nnamdi Azikiwe, who believe in good governance. And if you believe in good governance, we believe that you are an obedient and Nigeria must be liberated. I thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much, His Excellency, Mr. Peter Obi, the presidential candidate of the Labour Party in the 2023 general elections. He's here represented by the distinguished Labour Party spokesperson for him. Please give him another resounding round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Well, we had the keynote address, which actually was spot on, and that's a call to patriotism, because we have no other country than Nigeria. So Nigeria, we have to think Nigeria, breathe Nigeria, meditate Nigeria, pray for Nigeria, ladies and gentlemen, and also herald this country into greater heights, so that if the Lord God Most High will bring the ship of state of this great nation into the harbor of destiny. Please, let's give this country a resounding round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, as patriotic Nigerians. Thank you. Thank you. Well, before we go into an interlude of music, please permit me to recognize a number of royal fathers here present. Let me recognize High Chief Roy Oke, the Umaru of Ogbe, representing the Ovie of Owe Kingdom. Please put your hands together for him if he's here. I also have His Royal Majesty, Dr. Ogenochukwu Morris, the Etekpimi Egboboyen of Uwimo II of Oroswe of Okerik Urobo Kingdom, representing the Palace Chiefs. Please put your hands together for him as well, the Royal Father. And the Odiologbo of Ore Kingdom, His Royal Majesty Okpuzo R. Ejurememe Inana JP. He is the Odiologbo King of Ore Kingdom. Please give him another resounding round of applause. Ladies and gentlemen, while Her Excellency Arikana Kwe was actually on the podium, my very good friend and great mentor, ladies and gentlemen, walked into this arena. I'm talking about our former president of the Nigerian Bar Association, a friend of the oil and gas industry who's actually been a luminary in his legal profession, particularly in the area of corporate law and tort, and all the mercantile accolades to it. A flag bearer of the Labour Party in the recent gubernatorial elections in Edo State. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Olumide Akpata Esquire. Put your hands together for him, ladies and gentlemen. I've just been told he's a local Warri boy, so it's an emotional return for not just him, but myself to come back home. Please give him another resounding round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. So, Wellman, the journey continues, and this gathering actually reflects a successful integration of local content strategies, capacity building, and operational excellence that actually aligns with the national objectives for the oil and gas industry in Nigeria. And so, on that note, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to introduce to you a saxophonist who's coming to give us a musical interlude while it lasts, and thereafter, my uncle, Professor Mike Ozekhome, will come to the stage to do what he knows best. Please put your hands together for the saxophonist as he comes forward to entertain us. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, I expect a thunderous round of applause for that duo. A duo of saxophonists and violinists actually rendering that melee or medley of our gospel soundtracks there, which is really soothing and soul-searching. Please give them a resounding round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. That was a medley of some gospel ensemble. More names are still coming up here. Bishop Ozekhome, you're here recognized. Bishop Ozekhome, Chairman, Pentecostal Fellowship of Nigeria, Delta State. Bishop Ozekhome, Chairman, PFN, Delta State. Please put your hands together for him, if he's here or by proxy. Bishop Sam Oyede, the Deputy Chairman, Pentecostal Fellowship of Nigeria, Delta State. If he's here or by proxy, please, we recognize you. Ladies and gentlemen, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, please let's give them a round of applause. Olorogun Dr. Anthony Omorigo, the former Deputy President of the former Deputy President General of Urobo Progressive Union, UPU, and Group Managing Director of Wellman Group, Nigeria. Please, you recognized Olorogun. Please give him a resounding round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. And like my colleague Oruchukwu Orogun had earlier mentioned, as the names come, we'll reel them out to you. Like I said, more are still coming. Wow, this is quite a long list. Engineer Alex Nain, a fellow of the Nigeria Society of Engineers. Engineer Alex Nain, Managing Director of GACMOC Nigeria Limited, and an ex-Chevron staff. You recognize, sir, an ex-African Regional Director of the Society of Petroleum Engineers International, SPE, ex-chairman, Society of Petroleum Engineers of Nigeria, that's SPE Nigeria, also SPE International. He said that they started the idea of the Nigerian content in the 90s in SPE and NAPE. NAPE is the acronym for Nigerian Association of Petroleum Explorationists, working with Dr. Riwanu Lukman, who was a one-time OPEC chairman and Minister of Petroleum Resources in Nigeria. Please put your hands together for Engineer Alex Nain, who is a fellow of the Nigeria Society of Engineers. I also have to recognize High Prince Johnson Akwamalue, the Oliha of Elu Kingdom, representing His Royal Majesty Ambassador Dr. Murphy Otuke Urugbezi, the Ogwara 1 JP, the Ovie of Elu Kingdom. The representative of Elu Kingdom, please. He'll recognize, sir. Okay. Well, coming up next, ladies and gentlemen, this gentleman needs no introduction. We see him. He's always an advocate of good governance and democracy. He's a constitutional legal numerary, ladies and gentlemen, and a professor in his own right. Mike Ozekhome, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, is going to be speaking on finding a system of government that works for Nigeria. Please put your hands together for him, ladies and gentlemen.
Introducing our next guest speaker, Professor Mike Ozekhome, SAN. Professor Mike Agbedo Abu Ozekhome hails from Iwikwe, Esako East Local Government Area of Edo State, Nigeria. He is a graduate from the prestigious University of Ife, now Obafemi Awolowo University, Ile-Ife, where he obtained a degree in law, LLB, in 1980. He was called to the Nigerian bar in 1981. Professor Mike Ozekhome, SAN, is an eminent constitutional lawyer, human rights activist, and senior advocate of Nigeria, SAN, having elevated to the inner bar in 2010. He is known for his courage, advocacy, and commitment to justice, representing numerous high-profile cases in Nigeria. His legal practice spans civil rights litigation, criminal defense, and public interest matters. Over the years, He has been involved in significant cases that shaped Nigerian legal jurisprudence, especially in the area of civil liberties and human rights enforcement. A champion of social justice, Professor Ozekhome has consistently fought against oppression, corruption, and abuse of power. He played an instrumental role during Nigeria's military regimes, speaking against military dictatorship and championing the cause of democracy. Professor Ozekhome is a prolific writer, authoring numerous legal texts, articles, and papers on constitutional law, human rights, and democracy. For his dedication to the legal profession and society, Professor Ozekhome has received several national and international awards. He is also a recipient of the national honors of Officer of the Order of the Federal Republic, OFR, and Commander of the Order of the Niger, CON. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome our guest speaker, Professor Mike Ozekhome, SAN.
Thank you very much. When you get such a lengthy citation, then you wonder what the lecture itself will be. And that reminds me of the joke of a man who came to deliver a lecture. When he arrived at the venue, it was as full as this, about 500 people. Then he started delivering the lecture. It was going on and on and on. The crowd started thinning. 500 to 300, 200, 100, 50. He was still going on with his lecture. 30, 20, 10, 5. The man would not yield. He was still going on with his lecture. 3, 2. Then by the time he finished his lecture, only one person was remaining in the audience. He turned to the man and said, I want to thank you for listening to me. The man said, I had no option because I was to present the next paper. That is to thank my brother and good friend, one of the greatest presidents ever produced on the soil of Africa, His Excellency, Dr. Goodluck Ebele Jonathan Azikiwe. This man made one great immortal statement, which readily put him in the pantheon of great historical figures. During the trial, the run-up to the 2015 presidential elections, he saw the desperation of his opponents. He saw that Nigeria was about to burn. He saw that decency had been thrown to the winds. And then they asked him, how do you hope to win so as to avoid bloodshed? His answer, say, my ambition is not worth the blood of any Nigerian. Sir, that statement can only be likened to such statements like that produced by Abraham Lincoln on 18th November 1863 during the Gettysburg Declaration, when he said, democracy is government of the people, for the people, and by the people. I want to thank you, sir. I flew down last night, yesterday, cutting down my journey abroad because I couldn't afford you being here, and I am not here. It would be disrespectful. To our chief host, this young man, Chris Iyowaye. Well, all I can say is that from the gathering you are seeing here, you can see that you have gone nuclear in your endeavor. May God bless your ventures. And I will not forget to mention my very good friend, this handsome, one of the youngest traditional rulers in Nigeria, very educated, highly sartorial, the Dane of Agbo, Onwuegbuzie the first. I greet you. I greet you, sir. I'm to speak on the best model of government for Nigeria. When I hear topics like this, I ask myself, why have we been missing it? Why couldn't we get it right? I heard Dr. Arikana speak, my first time of meeting you, madam, but I've enjoyed watching some of your videos. You are a great Pan-Africanist, and I respect you. I was touched when she talked about the Berlin Conference, at times called the Berlin West African Conference, that took place between 1884 and 1885. And what was it all about? It was a gathering of colonialists to decide how to partition Africa. That was all. And not only partitioning it, they said, if you are next, you must occupy. If you are next, you must occupy. They will just come and say, you know what? France, take that place. Portugal, do you like that place? Take. Germany, what of that place? That was how they partitioned Africa. Nigeria was not excluded. So when you hear revised history by Western people, saying, for example, that Mungo Park discovered the river Niger at Kainji, New Busa. How do you discover a river that you met the natives drinking, taking their bath, fishing? It is a warped narrative. You need to read Walter Rodney's How Europe Underdeveloped Africa to see what we have gone through as a people. Over 400 years of slavery before its abolition, led by people like William Wilberforce, Thomas Clapson, Glavin Williams, and of course, the final abolition by Abraham Lincoln in 1863. Why haven't we got it right? Why are we operating a warped federal system of government, which is actually unitary? In a sense, there are 67 items on the exclusive legislative list of our Constitution. The federal government taking over virtually everything, leaving little to the states and local governments. What is the federal government's business? Being involved in marriage through the Marriage Act. So your marriage to your wife or husband, how you live, how you separate, how you divorce, custody of the children, is governed by an act that only the federal government can look into. That is not a federal state. When 50 American states came together in 1887 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, They met there to have a more perfect union. They were already confederates, but they felt they needed a strong center. When they met there, led by Washington, George Washington, after whom Washington, D.C. is named, there were contemporaries like Alexander Hamilton, John Jay. They were there. It was at that conference or convention that took place between May 25 and September 17, 1887, that they decided to have presidentialism, executive presidency, and federalism, and also to have separation of powers between the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary, a doctrine that had been popularized in 1884 by Baron de Montesquieu, a great French philosopher. They also agreed on judicial review. Now, 39 of the 50 members signed that treaty, which also gave America a Bill of Rights. They subjected the Constitution to a referendum of the people so that they could buy in. We have not had that opportunity. In 2016, President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan was able to bring together 492 delegates representing all strata of the Nigerian society to deliberate as to how we want to move forward. If you are living together and the project is unworking, won't you find a way of how to move together, how to move forward? After all the fights, fisticuffs, near fisticuffs, debates, I happen to have headed one of the subcommittees as to what to do with the outcome of the Constitution. Over 600 recommendations were made. But that was in the twilight of President Jonathan. I have argued again and again that he did not have the time to implement the recommendations of this project, or no other government has ever touched it. So we are going on a journey to no destination without a compass. Why are we afraid of a new constitution subjected to people's referendum, which will tell us how we want to now live together henceforth, going forward, as America did it years ago, as was done in Nigeria, Tunisia, Egypt, Eritrea, Ethiopia, Netherlands, even England. Why are we afraid? It was done on the 10th of August in 1963, when the Midwest region wanted to leave Western region to become the fourth region in Nigeria. My take on this is that the present Nigerian project is not working. Make no mistake about that. As a patriot, I can mouth the indivisibility and indestructibility of Nigeria. But I tell you one thing, unity is a very jealous goddess. You need to water it. You cannot say we are one, we cannot be divided, when everything we are doing on a daily basis is divisive. Ethnicity, sectionalism, prebendalism, cronyism, tribalism, religious bigotry have affected us and how we view Nigeria. That is why, if you ask many people, nobody believes in Nigeria. I'm sorry to say. You say, oh, I'm from Ivyukwe near Agenebode, East local government area of Edo State. If you ask the average American, where are you from? We say, I'm an American. You say, where are you from? Say, what do you mean? He wants to know whether you mean where he was born, or where he lives, or where he works, or where he schooled. Look at any form we are to fill in this country. They will start with your name, your father's name. Then where do you come from? You will state it. They are not satisfied with your town, no. What local government area? You will state it. Then what state? You will state it. They have not let you go. They are not going to let you go. They will say, your religion. You see, you are already being profiled. You're already being typified to either get something or not get something. So how do you... So that is why nobody seems to believe this behemoth contraption called Nigeria. We are operating a constitution, the Constitution of 1999, which is actually a schedule attached to Decree number 24 of 1999. Not many Nigerians remember that General Abdulsalami Abubakar organized the 1999 elections without even a constitution. And we are saying we need a new constitution. I'm an advocate of that. That will be subjected to a people's referendum, so that we can have what we call an autochthonous constitution, homegrown constitution. My elder brother there, Professor Sam Oyowari, a great Nigerian academic and elder statesman, has spoken and written oceans and oceans about this same topic. And we are ad idem on that. So I think that now that we have federative units that are 36, with 774 local government areas, it becomes difficult to tell the people we want to dissolve your states so as to have regional governments. All that I can say or recommend is that the Southeast, which is currently marginalized in terms of the number of states, having 5 only states, should be given a 6th state, because some already have 6, some have 7. Then we can create what we call regional blocks, which under the present system we call geopolitical zones, so that people in one zone can decide to have their own union. For example, why shouldn't a zone have its own Supreme Court? In America, every state of the 50 states, each has its own constitution. Each has its own court system, up to the Supreme Court of that state. Each has its own police force. Why can't we do that? So I believe that these regional blocks can then serve as union, particular union for these states, And that in having a people's constitution, we must provide that a state should enjoy 100% of its produce and then pay tax to the government at the center. That was how it was during the 1960 Independence Constitution and 1963 Republican Constitution. Each region enjoyed its own produce. The North under Ahmadu Bello, the Sardauna of Sokoto, who used the Kano groundnut pyramids, the hides and skin and the cotton of the North. With that, he set up the Northern Nigeria Development Corporation, NNDC. Some of the projects he carried out are still there. The Yankari Game Reserve, Ahmadu Bello University, Doba Hotel, they are still there. In the West, Obafemi Awolowo, the late sage, used the mono cocoa produce of the West to develop his people. Liberty Stadium, Ibadan. Cocoa House, Ibadan. Still the tallest building in Ibadan today. The University of Ife, now aptly named after him, Obafemi Awolowo University, which he built in 1962. And I'm a proud product of that university. And Mr. President will agree with me that there are two universities in Nigeria, the University of Ife and others. Awolowo built the first television station in Africa in 1959. But he did the unthinkable. He gave his people free education at all levels. That is why, whether you like it or not, the Yorubas, from my own research, remain the most educated bunch of people in Nigeria because of the vision of Wellman, Awolowo, and because he could control his own product. They took 50%, then paid 30% to the government at the center. And then all the regions again shared another 20%. That was how it was. In the East, Nnamdi Azikiwe, Dr. Akanu Ibiam, and then Dr. Michael Okpara, the great agrarian man, they used the mono produce of the East, palm oil, which they developed that place. The Trans-Amadi Estate in Enugu, Port Harcourt, the Obudu Cattle Ranch, the presidential hotels in Enugu and Port Harcourt, the Enugu Stadium, the University of Nigeria, Nsukka and Enugu, all because he could control his produce. In the Midwest region, that was created out of Western region on 10th August 1963, through the deep help of people like Jereti Mariri, Dr. Dennis Osadebe, Omimi Ejo, Okechebo, Kesinti Momo, Oba Kenzwa II. They had timber and rubber, and they could use that to develop the then Midwest region. How many of us remember again the Ogeli glass factory? Where is it today? Okwila cement factory. Are they not gone? How come that it is now that we are giving only 13% derivation money to oil-producing communities, and you are saying they should start dancing at Ilogo and Pokiti dance? They should be happy? I've asked many of my friends, when we were having this produce, I didn't hear Kano Granite Pyramid being transported from there to Ogbea or to Warri. But what kind of federation would you have that will make you lay pipelines from Port Harcourt and Warri to Kaduna to transport oil from there? That is a warped federalism. We cannot work with that. So if we insist on this expensive presidential system of government, then the few points I've made above about how to reorganize ourselves become very important. Otherwise, if you ask me, we should go back to the parliamentary system of government, which is very effective and inexpensive to maintain. We operated it before 15 January 1966, when a military coup led by Major Kaduna Nzogu Chukwuma and other young majors overthrew that government. Under a parliamentary system, we don't need to go around the whole country campaigning as a presidential candidate. You vote people into the legislative branch. The people meet. The leading political party forms the government, and they produce the prime minister or premier. And members of cabinet are also appointed from the legislature. The day they get angry with the prime minister, they pass a vote of no confidence on him, and he goes. Look at the UK, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, India. They are operating this system very well. I therefore say that having a workable system of government for Nigeria has to be a look between this parliamentary system of government and a rejigged, retooled, re-engineered presidential system of government that will not make our 80% to 85% of our national resources, income, to go into recurrent expenditure, and then leaving about 50 to 20% for capital projects. No country grows like that. I can tell you, we are just wasting our time. Then you will have 40-something ministers. Each minister will have a special advisor. The special advisor will have special assistant. The special assistant will have personal assistant. The personal assistant will have a driver and a cook. So we use our money to massage the ego of these our people. What are we doing with 109 senators and 360 members of the House of Representatives serving as a drain pipe on our limited resources? Do you know, not many of you know that the Constitution actually says that the legislators can sit for half of the year only. That's 6 months in a year. That's why many of them can travel abroad and gallivant. Why don't you make it pro bono? Come and serve. If you want to serve Nigeria, come here free of charge. Then we give you sitting allowance any day you sit. That is when you will see real patriots who want to help Nigeria grow, go to Abuja. Or you abolish one of the two chambers. The red chamber, Senate, 109 senators. The green chamber, House of Reps, 360. Abolish one of them. And stop allowing these people to guzzle our money. We can't make it like this. It's not going to be possible. We need to have a lean government. a lean government. We need to look at what the Asian tigers did to make it. They were poorer than us. India and Malaysia were coming here to borrow money from Nigeria. Malaysia came here to take their palm kernel. We need to have a lean government for us to survive. Our government is too elephantine, too behemoth, too unwieldy, too wasteful. We can't make it like this. Take my word for it. It will just be a journey to no destination. At best, we will just suffer the fate of the barber's chair of perpetual motion without progress. So, Mr. President, sir, I think the Nigerian project, as we currently have it, is unworking and is unworkable. If I'm going to Yenagoa, there's a road I should take. I should pass through Ugeli, Patani, to find my way to Yenagoa. But if you say I'm going to Yenagoa, and I start going to Benin, from Benin to Uromi, from Uromi to Auchi, Auchi to Okbila, Okbila to Lokoja, Abuja, Kaduna, I'm not going to get to Yenagoa. What do? You must stop at a stage and reverse so that you get it right. And the reason, one of the reasons we are not capable of knowing what we are doing is that we seem to have forgotten history, like the Bourbons of European history that learnt nothing and forgot nothing. Your vehicle has a large windshield in front so that you can see perfectly what is in your front. But the maker of the vehicle realizes that you cannot totally forget the past. So they put a mirror for you by the side of the car so that you can watch your back. You can watch what is coming on, what is there that you left behind. Because today is the tomorrow we talked about yesterday. Our leadership at all levels must show patriotism to this country. That, to me, is lacking right now. Everybody believes in going there, take what you can from the national till, go away, and then another one comes. We are not going to make it like that. Corruption is now on steroids. We are being mocked as one of the most corrupt nations of the world, even overtaking India on the poverty scale. I went to Chennai, India, 2 years ago. Not one of the biggest cities, and I was surprised as to what I saw. Industries, factories. America even imports certain notes and bolts from them for their aircraft. India manufactures over 85% of the vehicles it requires. India here, that became independent only in 1947, and us, 1960. They manufacture ship and aircraft, except the turbine engine. I don't know whether we now manufacture pins. Somebody was happy the other day that we now manufacture toothpicks. The irony is that this handkerchief you are seeing with me here, if you check the label, the little label, it says Hong Kong. So we have to import this handkerchief. The Asian tigers that were poor decided to invest in industrialization, to invest in exports, with the government producing an enabling environment, giving tax incentives, tax rebates, building human capacity, and investing heavily in education. Those were the factors that made the 4 Asian tigers. South Korea, Singapore, Hong Kong, and Taiwan. They are the 4 Asian tigers. I went to South Korea some years ago. I was amazed as to what I was seeing. If you go to Singapore, you will think you are in another world. So we need a leadership that is empathic, that knows the problem of his people, that finds a way of addressing them, not talk down on them. We need a leadership that is accountable and transparent, whose actions can be gauged. We need a National Assembly that will truly make laws for the peace, order, and good government of Nigeria. We need a judiciary that delivers justice, not injustice. Not a system where presidents, governors, legislators are now incubated, delivered at the sacred presses of our courts against the ballot paper, against the ballot box. That is not a system that is working. So what we are practicing today, like I've said again and again, using my own coined neologism, Ozekhpedia, I said we don't practice democracy, we practice many other crazes, except the demo. We practice electionocracy. We practice selectocracy. We practice judocracy. We practice executocracy. And we practice legislatocracy. Our politics have become politics of win or die. So the politicians believe that you can just do anything to first win, and then the next thing they will say what? Go to court. Because they know that the courts themselves will not be allowed to work independently. That cannot work for us. We are bastardizing democracy. That's not the concept given to us by Abraham Lincoln on 18th November 1863 during this Gettysburg Declaration. We need to retool. We need to re-engineer. But I believe that although things are so terrible right now, if the government can muster enough courage and goodwill to put forward ameliorative devices to stop the hunger of people, that will stop the anger and despondency. Nigerians are suffering. Make no mistake about that. And when they are suffering, don't think that you and I here, who are the elites, are free. Go to many of our houses. We have fences that are taller, higher than Kirikiri prisons. If we are safe, if we feel safe, if things are going on well, why do we do that? I also enjoin Nigerians, the civil society, to rise up, to challenge bad governance and hold the government accountable to the people. Leonard Hand once told us that the only price we have to pay for our liberty is eternal vigilance. Nigerians must stop this Stockholm syndrome that they are suffering from, where the victim falls in love with his tormentor, like a slave to his master. When day breaks, the slave will remind the master, sir, you have not slapped me since morning. You know you normally give me 5 slaps. He gives him the 5 slaps. Then he prostrates. He says, sir, you have forgotten to walk on my back. That is what Nigerians are doing. We should speak up. We do not have any other country. And this country, the Dolly Parton's coat of many colors, is one of the greatest countries in the world, if we can make it so. Under President Jonathan, I remember, Nigeria became rebased with over 500 billion in terms of our GDP economy. We even overtook South Africa. Where are we today? We have borrowed over 21 trillion naira, both in domestic and foreign debts. When are we going to pay? We have even borrowed on top of the head of our children, generations yet unborn. You can't make it under such a delicate debt system where we use majority of our income to service debts. Servicing of debts, listen to that. Not paying the debts, just to service. I think we need to get it right. There's a ray of hope at the end of the tunnel. God bless all of you, and God bless Nigeria.
I wish we could continue with him. He always has a lot to say about our country, Nigeria. As you're all aware, this is going on live. It's been televised live, and so we need to be very conscious of time. We're going to be inviting Dr. Henrietta Onwuegbuzie, who will be talking on skill-driven entrepreneurship, and we'll be giving you 15 minutes. Dr. Henrietta.
Introducing our next speaker, Dr. Henrietta Onwuegbuzie. Dr. Henrietta Onwuegbuzie is an influential academic and practitioner in entrepreneurship and impact investing. She is an associate professor at Lagos Business School, where she leads entrepreneurship sessions for MBA and executive programs. Her focus includes developing strategies for entrepreneurship growth, particularly in emerging economies, and promoting indigenous entrepreneurship. She holds an MSc in Economics and Business Administration from the University of Navarre, Spain, an MBA from Lagos Business School, and a PhD in Management Entrepreneurship from Lancaster University, UK. Dr. Onwuegbuzie has a strong background in both education and corporate banking. Before joining Lagos Business School, she worked on educational projects aimed at empowering women and later held roles in corporate banking. She is involved in impact investing initiatives and mentors entrepreneurs across Africa, promoting sustainable and innovative business models. She has spoken at numerous international conferences and won several awards for her work, including the African Women Development Champion Award and recognition for her research on indigenous entrepreneurship. Her work bridges academia, entrepreneurship, and social impact, and she serves on various boards and governing councils, contributing to both local and international discussions on business development and impact investing. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome our next speaker, Dr. Henrietta Onwuegbuzie.
Good afternoon, Your Excellencies. I'd just like to stand on the existing protocols. I'd like to make this as quick as possible. I know that I am a teacher, but this is going to be as quick and as straight to the point as possible. I'm not sure the slides should actually be good. Okay. All right, so I'm going to be focusing on skills-driven entrepreneurship for national transformation. Speakers before me have spoken about the problems that we have and also suggested solutions. And I'm just going to drill down to the solutions that we seated here can actually begin to think about and is within our purview to make a difference. So the two main things I'm going to be focusing on will be why skills-driven entrepreneurship is important for national transformation, and the solutions for transforming Nigeria through the same medium, which is skills-driven entrepreneurship. So let me start, because they say for you to be able to solve a problem, you must understand the situation so that when you're developing your strategies, it's an appropriate one, so you get the desired outcomes. So let's start with a few erroneous beliefs that make us spend money in the wrong direction. And the first is that Africa is overpopulated. Okay, so what I have here is a map of Africa, and we're seeing from this map that you can fit in the United States, which has 340 million people. You can fit into Africa, China, which has 1.4 billion people. You can also fit India into Africa, which has 1.4 billion people. The other countries are very small. But guess how many we are in Africa? You'd be surprised that the whole of Africa has only 1.4 billion people. And they make us spend a lot of our money on family planning rather than developing the people that we have who are an asset to the country. So it's important that we know what really the problem is, because the truth we're seeing from this is that Africa is actually underpopulated. And if population was a problem, we won't see what we're seeing now on this chart. So what I have here are the biggest economies in the world, the 6 biggest economies in the world. Now, for me to get, if you focus on the column just before the yellow column, there I have the population density. Nigeria is the blue line. Nigeria has 245 people per square kilometer, and we're 39th in the world. However, there are countries that have more people than we have, and yet their economy is much stronger, their GDP is much higher, and they're doing much more. So if you look at the GDP, if you look at the population density of even the UK, it's higher than the one of Nigeria. They have 289 people per square kilometer. Nobody is telling them that they're overpopulated. Nobody is telling them to kill their children. In fact, they're looking for people. And with Brexit, they're suffering even more. So that economy is going down. They used to be the 4th in the world. Today, they are the 6th. You have India. India has almost double Nigeria's population density. So we're 245 per square kilometer. India has 424, but they're rising. Okay? They are now the 5th biggest economy in the world. So population is not our problem. Okay? It's the poor allocation of resources. So if we spend our money going for population control, we're actually misdirecting what we need to do. Africa as a continent has very few people. It is very sparsely populated. The challenge we have when we see poor people around is poor allocation of resources. We need to change that, not kill our people or embark on all these draconian laws. To make it even clearer, I just compared Africa as a continent and China, which is a country. China is not a continent, it is a country. Same population size, different landmass. You can see that our size is 30.8 kilometers squared. China is just 9.6 million. They have a much higher population density. Their GDP is 6 times ours. Their employment rate is less than 3. Their unemployment rate is, we are higher by, higher 30 times, okay? Or about 30 times. And number of out-of-school children in Nigeria is much higher. We have about 20 million out-of-school children, and they have only about 13 million out-of-school children out of 1.4 billion people. So, as I said before, Africa is grossly underpopulated. Population is not the cause of our problem. Our problem is poor allocation of resources, and we need to educate. What that means is that we need to spend more money on education as opposed to family planning. So the questions we should be asking if we want to see a better Nigeria, and when I'm focusing on solutions, is how do we get 20 million children into school in Nigeria? This is a world where that's going increasingly digital. And we're still at the basic level of how do we educate a lot of our youth. Africa's strength lies in its population, in its youthful population. But are we really turning that youthful population into an asset? How do we harness the assets in our youth bulge? And how do we produce more job creators as opposed to job seekers, which is the problem we have? Everybody comes out of school looking for jobs. We churn out millions of people every year, but the jobs are not increasing in the same proportion. So the question is, why are we not churning out job creators as opposed to job seekers? Because we're following the colonial mentality, which Dr. Henrietta had mentioned. We need to decolonize. Decolonization needs to happen in different dimensions, and education is one of them. The school system needs to acknowledge what we need and act accordingly and be designed accordingly. So are we providing the appropriate type of education? And the question is no. We're still focused on making people feel that you go to school to look for a job, not going to school to use your knowledge to solve problems. And when this happens, what then happens is that you create jobs. Okay, you come out of school, if the orientation has been entrepreneurial as opposed to just one of job seeking, you come out of school thinking about the solution you want to create. And when that solution is something people want, I mean, nobody convinced us to buy mobile phones. It was a solution we're all looking for and didn't think could ever exist. Nobody convinces you to buy glasses if you need one. Nobody convinces you to buy clothes if you need one. So if the solution you're coming up with is relevant, people will be willing to pay, and for you to meet demand, you need to employ people. And that's how a system of, wealth creation and shared prosperity is created. And this is what we should be focusing on. Right, so what then happens? Let's just quickly compare the traditional apprenticeship system, which is indigenous to us, okay, and usually lasts for 4 years and above, and the traditional mainstream Western system. You go to university for at least 4 years, 5 if you're studying architecture, or 6 or more if you're studying medicine. Now, so what happens when we're done with apprenticeship? The apprentice is trained to become a business leader. And soon after he finishes, he's making good money. While the student who has just graduated is carrying his CV up and down, I beg to apply, and crying, Nigeria is happening to me. I beg to apply seems to be the ultimate for the student who has been programmed to see himself as a job seeker, to see a job as the only way of succeeding in life. Now, the apprentice who becomes a business leader is now a job creator because he's looking for people to work with him, okay? Even if he's a spare parts dealer in Oshodi or wherever, he's making so much, there's so much demand, he's making so much money, he's employing people, he's also raising other apprentices. A system of inclusion, okay? While the job seeker is still carrying his CV up and down, job hopping, or thinking, what would they pay me 5,000 naira more? Which is nonsense compared to what the apprentice, who is now a business leader, is making. The apprentice makes a lot more money faster. If you go to any of our local markets, you see the way they're counting hundreds of thousands and millions. When a graduate gets 50,000 at the end of the month, he counts himself lucky. At the end of 30 days, an amount that most apprentices who are in business make within an hour. Even those who cut hair, even those who do nails, those who do makeup, make it per client. But a graduate is going to school, going to work every day for a full month and grateful for that pittance. We need a mind reset. We're being programmed wrongly, and that will not take Africa anywhere. So the next comparison is innovation. Okay. The apprentice or the entrepreneur constantly is improving what he's doing. Okay. I have a student who now makes cars, Nord. He's gone from making petrol-driven cars to electric cars to CNG cars in response to what's going on in the economy with regards to the cost of fuel. And guess what? People are buying from him. At first, people were saying, oh, made in Nigeria, it may not be so good. But he has customers in the police, state governments. They're buying those cars. And as he responds to the problems in the economy, fuel is getting too expensive, he already has electric cars people are buying from him, and he also has CNG-powered cars. Innocent is doing the same thing, and it's growing from strength to strength. Meanwhile, in an organization, your innovative ideas have to be cleared by the bureaucracy of your boss, the MD, the board, until you get tired. So at the end of the day, one person is contributing more to society than the other. Apprenticeship training prevents business failure. Why? Because you've done that thing for 4 years with your master. You go to school, well, I don't teach that, but most people teach you to write a business plan about what you don't understand. That is programming you, setting you up for failure. Because you cannot write a good business plan without having the slightest idea of the market you're entering. You need a good feasibility study to be able to produce a business plan. And so failure rate using the Western method of business plans has gone higher than 90%, which means that out of every 10 people who write business plans, more than 9 fail. It's not working. The other system is working, but we're organizing it. We're ignoring it because for us it's indigenous and therefore inferior. Meanwhile, it's working more effectively. Finally, of course, the apprentice is transforming society with their solutions, while the others are losing their jobs. As we know, about 8 multinationals have left Nigeria this year. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I see it as an opportunity, but this is my personal opinion, for African entrepreneurs to replace them, okay, and begin to export things that we know work. But the other people who believe that, oh, once I'm working in a multinational, I'm made for life. There's no job security anymore. That's the reality. So it doesn't make sense to say, well, I don't want to be an entrepreneur because I can't deal with uncertainty. There's now more uncertainty. Today's reality is that there's now more uncertainty in most jobs. Apprenticeship has venture capital funding intrinsic to it. Why? Because it's an understanding, especially in the Igbo apprenticeship system, because apprenticeship is not just restricted to the Igbos. There's also Yoruba apprenticeship. There's also the Hausa type of apprenticeship. But in the Igbo type of apprenticeship, once you've served for 4, 5, 6 years, it is understood that your master sets you up. So that's venture capital funding. Natural. You don't have to look for it. It's an understanding. Whereas in the normal conventional business, you have to go seeking for venture capital funding, which can be very risky. There are about 5 well-known Nigerian businesses, Nigerians who have lost their businesses to venture capital companies, especially the foreign ones, okay? I can't go into explaining that because of time, but these are realities we need to keep in mind. So again, it's really about decolonizing the way we think that education should go, okay? We can actually modify our educational system such that our people gain. You come out from school empowered to be a job creator and a solution provider to society. This is what society needs today, not more job seekers. I'll very quickly help you see the power of entrepreneurship when we connect it to economic development. We frequently hear that entrepreneurs are the engines of economic growth, and it tends to be cliche. Now, let me break that down for us to see exactly how this happens. How do we go from this red line where we have, and this is what we're experiencing right now in Nigeria, we have problems, pain points, poverty, market inefficiency. And we want to go to this green line where we have, I don't know if you can see it, but at the bottom there, I have in green, sustainable socio-economic development. So while most people spend time having a pity party, lamenting, complaining what's not working, those with an entrepreneurial mindset start thinking about solutions they can provide. Okay. I know people who just do ice block, and they're making it big. I mentioned this in my MBA class, and MD actually said, well, I have 4 freezers in my house. I have only 2 children. Most of it, there's plenty of space there. Let me start doing this. And before she knew what was happening, she was making almost as much money from the side business as she was making in her job as an MD. Anyhow, so entrepreneurial-minded people just ask themselves, what problem can I solve? What need can I meet? And very quickly, they start trying something out, and maybe it works. And then they begin to find themselves, okay, I'll give you an example, because I run a business as well. I run my own consultancy. I can say this out here because at a business school, it's actually encouraged. We're not just teachers who just teach and don't do. We do as well, and I sit on several boards. And what I have on my head is actually my product. I wanted to just do it I was looking for turbans for myself, and I couldn't find one that I liked in the market. And I said, okay, why don't I make something for myself? And I thought, make a few for sale. And I didn't have time to sell it. So I said, okay, I'll go to a friend who has stores all over Nigeria, and I'll just supply her. And that thought, which was meant to be just a hobby in 2016, is a thriving business today because demand hasn't stopped coming. So I'm not just telling you what we preach. It's also what I'm doing, and I'm seeing it every day in my students. So anyway, but basically, you come up with a solution. It could be a pain point you're experiencing. Maybe in your estate, people don't have time to go for school run. Your husband has said you shouldn't work. Okay, be the one that picks other kids from school. Keep them in your house, give them lunch, do homework with them. I'm sure people in your estate will be willing to pay you. That's a business right there. You're solving a problem, and you're making money from making a difference. So, once you realize that your solution, people are willing to pay for your solution, as soon as demand continues to grow, you won't be able to serve the market alone. You're going to need to employ people. You're now creating jobs. And so a business venture is formed. Now, a business venture is not just a platform to make money. It's a platform that does several things. Apart from creating jobs, as you employ people, you're alleviating poverty because they now have salaries regularly. You're also creating wealth for yourself because, of course, you're selling at a profit, you're commercializing. And because you're making money, you're also making money for your staff. Because of your business, your staff can pay rent. They can pay school fees for their children. They can clothe themselves. So that money is going around creating shared prosperity. Now, when you have shared prosperity, what do you do to people? You transform them. Poverty is voicelessness. If you slap your house girl or your driver, what happens? Nothing. If you try that with anybody in this room, especially those on the front row, what will happen to you? You may not even leave this place alive. Okay? Now, what is the difference between your maid, okay, or your driver, who are also human beings, and the people here? Nothing. Financial status. So, when you pay people, you don't just pay them money, you're transforming them to people with a status, with dignity. And those people have a voice, just like everybody on the front row here has a voice. Now, when a lot of people have a voice, what happens? Those in charge are compelled to accountability. You know, in France, if a government official travels business class, I didn't say first class, when he comes back, they're waiting for him. you must show us, you must prove to us that it wasn't taxpayers' funds you used to travel business class. Here in Nigeria, what happens? Nothing. Only business class. Okay, you don't see first class. Is that what your mates are doing? In spite of what is, so the point here is that if you want to see Nigeria change, we have to transform the lives of the masses. So long as 80% of Nigerians are experiencing multidimensional poverty, Nigeria is not going to change because it is full of voiceless people. So that business that you think is just an opportunity for you to make money actually is a platform for you to create shared prosperity, to give people a voice at different levels. So of course, when government is compelled to accountability, that reduces corruption. Look, Europe and America are no less corrupt, and I'm glad this is live. They let me hear me loud and clear. They're no less corrupt than Nigeria. It's just that they have a population of people who have a voice. And so they don't do the wrong, they reduce the number of wrong things that they do. So the point here is that no government changes by itself. The people have to compel that change. That's what they refer to as the office of the citizen. And that cannot be exercised when people are in poverty. And so once there's a system of accountability, institutions begin to function. Policies are enforced. Right now, they're only enforced depending on who is the person in question. Okay? Now, when that line under where your business creates jobs, okay, is functioning well, and therefore makes it uncomfortable for government to act with impunity because people are going to ask questions and are going to stop it. I mean, a good example is when they try to change the name of Unilag to Moshood Abiola University. That's an intellectual institution. People there have a voice. There was such a strong uprising, it couldn't happen. Okay? So other things can also be stopped if people have a voice. So once there's an improved ecosystem for entrepreneurship, more entrepreneurs will spring up. More of that third line will be happening. There'll be more shared prosperity because if there are more entrepreneurs, more jobs are created, more people are empowered, and there's more compulsion. Sorry, I'm out of time. Okay, good. I'll stop in a minute. Right. And so this is how you reach sustainable socioeconomic development. And if you think about what's happening in the other economies that we all want to go to, you will understand that it is this. And this happens because of the actions of entrepreneurs. So it's really important that we begin to focus. I'm out of time here, so I'm going to stop at this slide. It's important that we begin to focus on creating an entrepreneurial mindset amongst our young people. It is not difficult. Start small, think big. You do not need a lot of money to start a business. Okay? Start gradually with what you have. Growth attracts funding. The other big mistake people make is to focus on trying to attract funding. No. Start. Once you're growing, people are more willing to trust and invest in you, and you grow even more, and you're able to then create jobs, put out more solutions there so that society is transformed for the better, and there's more shared prosperity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Please put your hands together for her, ladies and gentlemen. It's often said that the best man for the job is a lady. So give her a resounding round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. You see, her presentation is a true attestation of the fact that women are managers of scarce resources, honestly. And could see the way she actually wriggled down the entrepreneurial process and how we should revamp the SMEs in Nigeria and also ensure that it adds value to our economy. Thank you very much, Chairman Deacon Cyril Umaru, for putting together this colloquium. And you can reach us. I understand we are live on Arise TV and also the Wellman social media handle on Facebook, Instagram, and the website www.wellmangroup.com. I repeat, www.wellmangroup.com. And also you can reach the live broadcast too on our social media handles, Facebook and Instagram for the Wellman Group. Coming up next, ladies, Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we have another speaker, and right after the speaker, we're going to be having His Excellency, the Governor of Delta State, come give his special remarks. And then our distinguished chairman and special guest of this occasion will cut the cake, and we'll have a group photograph. I really need to give you heads up on what we are to do in the course of this colloquium. And so let me call on Dr. Moses Umaru to come speak on effective utilization of the diaspora potentials for the development of Nigeria. You have just 10 minutes, and your time starts now. Put your hands together for Dr.
Next
Moses
is a
Umaru,
distinguished speaker at this event, Dr. Moses Umaru. Dr. Moses Umaru is a distinguished leader with a proven track record in business diplomacy, international trade relations, and industrial development. He currently serves as the Director General of the Franco-Nigerian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, FNCCI, where he plays a pivotal role in fostering economic and commercial ties between France and Nigeria. Under his stewardship, the Chamber has seen significant growth in bilateral trade relations, facilitating partnerships, investments, and collaborations across various sectors, including energy, agriculture, infrastructure, and technology. With a PhD in international trade and economic policy, Dr. Umaru combines academic prowess with practical experience in global commerce. His deep understanding of the socio-economic landscape of both Nigeria and France allows him to navigate complex international negotiations and develop strategies that enhance trade and investment opportunities for both nations. A well-respected figure in the Nigerian business community, Dr. Umaru has contributed to several high-level economic forums and is a strong advocate for sustainable development and inclusive growth. His leadership at FNCCI has resulted in numerous successful trade missions, investment summits, and business exchanges, further solidifying his role as a key player in strengthening the economic ties between France and Nigeria. Dr. Moses Umaru is also an active member of several international business organizations and chambers, where he continues to influence policy, drive innovation, and promote economic collaboration on a global scale. His vision for the France-Nigerian Chamber of Commerce and Industry is to continue creating a robust platform for economic growth, fostering dynamic partnerships that benefit both nations' economies. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Dr. Moses Umaru.
Thank you very much, and it is a delight that I'm here today. Beyond the fact that I am delighted to be here, is the fact that this is a room with huge quality of people, beyond traditional leaders to government functionaries to the private sector to diplomats. So as a young Nigerian, I am like say blown to be in your midst this afternoon. And I do not take this for granted. I have two responsibilities, ladies and gentlemen, this afternoon. Number one is to bring the goodwill of the French Consul General of France to Nigeria to the Wellman Group. And before I do that, I must not fail to recognize His Excellency, the former president of Nigeria, Dr. Goodluck Ebele Jonathan. You are such an inspiration to us young people, and you will continue to be an inspiration to us. Thank you very much for being here this afternoon. Beyond that, I'm going to say this very, very quickly, that as of today, His Excellency, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, is on a state visit to France. And this is the first state visit of any African president since 2019. Normally, as the Franco-Nigerian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, as the DG of the Franco-Nigerian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, I'm supposed to be there ahead of the president's visit. When I told the Consul General that Wellman has a program here, he said, you have to be here for Wellman's program. And I'll tell you why he said that. Deacon Chris, you already know himself, he has seen the Consul General of France already. He came to Lagos and he gave a testimonial as to what he is doing with French expertise. And he also mentioned it in his opening address. And the Consul General gave his exact words, that the collaboration between Wellman Group and France is a perfect example of excellence in collaboration. Now that I have done that job, I will focus on my own presentation right now, so I don't waste time. I have just 10 minutes to do that. So I'm going to speak on the diaspora potential of Nigeria. And that is something that, I don't know if my slides are supposed to be on the screen already. Do I have my slides, please? So while the slides are getting ready, just yesterday, ladies and gentlemen, Nigeria's GDP came out 3.46%, Q3 2024. The GDP Q2 2024 was 3.19%. If you look at the GDP of Nigeria, for example, you discover that over 94% are in the non-oil sector, and less than 6% are in the oil sector in terms of contributing to the Nigerians' overall GDP. But the problem with that GDP is this, that in as much as we know that the Nigerian economy is already well diversified, the problem we are having is this, that government revenue and FX earnings in Nigeria from the non-oil sector is so much less compared to the oil sector. And that's exactly what Henrietta has already mentioned the need for entrepreneurship. And most especially, fundamentally, is the fact that for us to grow in Nigeria here, there has to be the enabling environment. The enabling environment to ensure that the economy grows. That is one. Number two, from the CBN side, there's what we call the cash reserve ratio. As at now, the cash reserve ratio is around 50%. What that means is that for every 10,000 naira you put in the bank, the central bank will have asked the commercial banks to keep 5,000 naira in reserves. Now, if we are going to drive economic performance, there is a need for injection in the stream of income. Now, what that means is this. If the government is holding back 50%, we cannot drive manufacturing, we cannot drive expertise, we cannot drive industrialization. What should happen now is this, that the government should release part of that 50% and push it to startups, entrepreneurs, and the manufacturing sector at a single-digit interest rate. And that, by so doing, you will drive manufacturing and you will drive the economy. Now, the argument most of the times is this, that if you do that, you are going to cause inflation. I'm sorry to say this. Our inflation in Nigeria is not demand pull. It's not because everybody have money in their pocket. It's because of the high cost of production. It is cost push inflation. So if you are going to deal with cost push inflation, you have to push manufacturing, you have to ensure that products are out there, and once the price reduces, you discover that a lot of things are going to get better in the economy. So the government needs to begin to look at things from a more holistic perspective. That's one. Number two, now I'm going to look at the diaspora potential for Nigeria. My slides are not on the screen yet. Is there a problem with that? If it's not there, I'm just going to run through my notes. Can I do that, please? But that will be a bit difficult for me. Sorry, because I sent this slide since last week. Okay, perfect. How do I control this? Oh, okay. Whoever is controlling it, can I just say, where? Thank you very much. So now, if you look at this overview, ladies and gentlemen, you look at the Nigerian government has recognized the need for the diaspora in the Nigerian economy. The fact remains is this, that as of today, it is estimated that over 17 million Nigerians are based in the diaspora. And these 17 million Nigerians are sending a lot of money into the Nigerian economy. But the question is, where is this money going to? We're going to see that in the course of today's discussion. Now, the government is recognizing the need to look more into the diaspora. Last week Wednesday, if I'm not mistaken, the bill for the diaspora voting in Nigeria elections scaled the second reading in the House of Representatives, which is a perfect recognition of the diaspora in Nigeria. Now, if you look at this, you will see the contributions of Nigerians in the diaspora. From remittances, over 30% are from the US, 20% from the UK, Cameroon, Italy, Ghana, and the rest of them. Now, I've already mentioned that Nigerians in diaspora are over 17 million, so I'm not going to stress this enough. I want to be very, very fast with this. Now, this is the argument I want to bring to you, ladies and gentlemen. The latest diaspora remittances in Nigeria reached 553 million in July 2024, ranking as the highest in a single month. A lot of funds are coming from the diaspora. You know why? Because, of course, the unification of the exchange rate has come into Nigeria already, and then a lot of more naira is chasing the dollar. So there is a need for us to bring more dollar into the Nigerian economy. When you exchange it, you get a lot of things being in the Nigerian economy. So that's an encouragement to do that. In 2018, diaspora remittances to Nigeria were over 24.3 billion, which was 83% of government budget and 11 times the foreign direct investment. You know how powerful that is. When the money that comes from those that are outside the country, in the US, the UK, and France, and all of that, are over 11 times the foreign direct investment that comes into Nigeria. That is very, very massive. Another argument is this. Nigerians abroad, official remittances have exceeded oil revenues for 4 consecutive years. The World Bank, in its report, has it that the diaspora contributed significantly to the country's economy in 2023, with remittances valued over $19 billion. This is very, very massive. So the question now is, where are these remittances actually going to? Please, next. If it's continuing. Now, if we look at the portion of diaspora remittances, you discover that as of today, diaspora remittances contribute over to 5% to 6% of Nigeria's GDP at the moment, which is very, very significant. I don't want to start talking about this table already. This is a long thing to start talking about. I don't have so much time to do this. Now, note that what I have mentioned is way, way beyond exactly what we have. You know the reason why this is because most of the remittances that has been captured are through the official windows. So, for example, you have a lot of people outside the country that send money to their loved ones. They put it in envelopes and they lock it under the bags and it goes through the airport. Those ones are not captured in the whole scheme of things. What that means is that even the $19.5 billion I'm talking about is way, way higher than that if you actually look at it from a real perspective. So this is the drive from 2020 to 2023 in terms of diaspora remittances to Nigeria. But in 2024, we're expecting that diaspora remittances is going to be way over $25 billion. Beyond this, now, there has been an argument that the diaspora community, as of today, stands as the 7th geopolitical zone in Nigeria. Very, very fundamental. And I have an argument that the diaspora community is the 4th tier of government in Nigeria. We have the federal, state, local, and then the diaspora community. Why? Because these people are creating a lot of impact. If you look at this, remittances have helped households by funding education, healthcare. We have Kanu Health Foundation. We have a lot of foundations by Nigerians abroad that have come to Nigeria to set up foundations, helping primary healthcare and creating a lot of impact, which is very, very important. Community development also. Diaspora-led initiatives focus on healthcare and, of course, trying to drive the Nigerian economy. Aside remittances, what does the diaspora bring? A few days ago, there was a video on TikTok where a particular doctor, Dr. Oni, who is a professor of orthopedic surgery in Johns Hopkins University in the US, after 25 years, he left his practice. He came back to Nigeria to set up a hospital in Nigeria so that the issue of, what I call it, medical tourism will have to end in the country. That's a lot of work being done by the diaspora community. And if we look at it, knowledge and best practice transfer is helping the economy. If you look at it, transfer of innovative practices, a lot of tech entrepreneurs that have gone to the Silicon Valley, gotten their trainings, have come back to Nigeria to support young tech entrepreneurs in Nigeria to be able to scale up. And of course, impact on governance and electoral process. It has passed the 2nd reading already. We believe that if it goes to the 3rd reading and then it is signed into law, 17 million Nigerians, imagine if they vote, they can be able to have so much impact in terms of governance in Nigeria. So it has a ripple effect, and I hope that law passes. As of today, remittances from the diaspora has plunged into the real estate sector. Now, this is where the argument is coming from. A lot of these monies are going to the real estate sector. The real estate sector is contributing to our GDP. That's the truth about it. But when you talk of contributing to GDP, we are looking at things that have a long-term advantage. So if the diasporans come into Nigeria and then they put these funds in manufacturing, it becomes better than the real estate sector. And why are they not putting the funds into manufacturing? It's because of the enabling environment in Nigeria. For example, we're talking about access road and power. If we can be able to deal with that, we can go as far as helping the Nigerian economy. So I'm going to wrap up with this. Let me wrap up with this now. I've mentioned this already. It has been established that the diaspora globally, if well harnessed, can contribute significantly to Nigerians' development. So in my final note, the potential of the Chinese diaspora, a research carried out by Lin Kuan Yew University of Public Policy, shows that technology transfer from the West through Chinese diasporas has helped the Chinese economy from the 19th, even the 18th, the 17th century, down to the 21st century. China, what they did was that they sent a lot of their citizens to other countries. They took the knowledge and they brought it back to China to develop China today. And China today is a manufacturing hub of the world, as we know that already. So if the diasporans in Nigeria can do the same thing, and then the government support to bring them back into Nigeria, we believe that they can drive manufacturing, they can drive industrialization, and of course, Nigeria can be a better place. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Moses Umaru. Please give him a resounding round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. He's just been able to put together in 10 minutes a snippet of his presentation titled Effective Utilization of the Diaspora Potentials for the Development of Nigeria. Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we'll now call on to give a special remark as His Excellency, the Governor of Delta State, His Excellency Elder Honorable Sheriff Oboriwori, the Governor of Delta State, here represented by his deputy, His Excellency Monday Omeya. Omewe. Oh, Onyeme. You'll pardon me for that, please. Thank you. Please, shall we rise as His Excellency takes on the podium? Thank you.
Please be seated. Your Excellency, Dr. Ebele Jonathan, the former President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Your Excellency, Dr. Arikana Chihombori Kwa. Please, for time's sake, permit me to adopt every other already established protocols. I am here on behalf of our dear Governor, the performing Governor of Delta State, Right Honorable Elder Sheriff Francis Orokwedo Oborewori, JP. He has asked me to welcome every one of you to Warri, our commercial city. He has asked me to tell you that he would have wanted to be here in person, but due to so many other engagements, which I know many of us that are resident in this state are aware of, he opted to ask me to be here while he continued with other schedules. We're all very happy with our dear Governor. Warri is taking new shape.
we are seeing that our dear governor is doing everything possible to transform and change the landscape of Warri. And I'm sure before the end of the first tenure, all of us will be seeing a very new and different Warri. The Wellman Group has chosen a topic which has been well canvassed in the country, but there has not been a blueprint or consensus on the Nigerian project. Discourse on the Nigerian project is a veritable platform that gives room to attempt to rejig Nigerian narratives with a view to positively reverse the doubts and negative perceptions of Nigerians, both locally and globally. It is also a national attempt at resolving clear internal contradictions in a multi-ethnic Nigerian state in the post-colonial era. It has assumed a life of its own, and no matter how far opponents of recasting Nigeria may go, it will not go away. I dare say that it is in the best interest of Nigeria and Nigerians that we should all come to terms with tinkering the Nigerian Federation and coming up with structure that will stand the test of time for the good of every one of us. It is interesting that the theme of this colloquium, Coast to Coast X-ray of the Nigerian project, World Panacea. The fact of the matter is that Nigeria remains a patchwork quilt, pierced together from the diverse, distinct nationalities, hurriedly joined by common colonial experience. So far, the country has continued to trudge on, but the inherent gaps in the piecing together continue to yawn like a toothless mouth. Want of time will not allow me to deal with the numerous factors which need to be retouched to make this country stronger and better. One of the most vexed issues is that the devolution of power to the states, which we have been canvassing for so many years without success to date. Like the former military president, General Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida put it while celebrating his 75th birthday, restructuring should be, according to his word, devolution of power to the state, to the extent that more responsibilities be given to the states, while the federal government is vested with the responsibility to oversee our foreign policies, defense, and economy. Unquote. For example, having federal roads in our towns and streets and cities has become outdated and urgently need revisiting. What are we doing with federal roads in our streets? While restructuring and the attendant devolution of power might not be the be-all and end-all solutions to our country's problem, tinkering with the Constitution to accommodate fresh ideas will surely strengthen our union as a country. It is presumably agreed that we should subscribe to our unity in diversity, but we have to make extra effort to strengthen the structures and make them more functional. Definitely, the comparative advantage in various states will come to the fore. Recently, the House of Representatives organized a seminar on state police. While there was dominant voice that agreed on state police, a more powerful but less dominant voice against it carried the day. The fear of the abuse or misuse of state police is vacuous. It no longer holds water. We should take a stand that augurs well for our dear nation. State police aside, like the former Vice President, His Excellency Atiku Abubakar has said, most of our states are not viable outside federal allocation. Let us create ways to make them viable in a changed federal system. We need to start producing again and collecting taxes to run the states in a more sustainable way, but with greater transparency and accountability. There is no way brief remarks like this will tackle all the issues involved in addressing the issues of the Nigerian project. We have issues like security, economic derivation, and many other topics that need to be interrogated if our country will grow stronger and better. The panacea to all this is rather simple. There should be a national dialogue, by whatever name it is called, by all and sundry. Let us agree on the fundamental of restructuring of this country. It is a win-win solution that gives room to states to develop on their own pace. Competition, we are sure, and it will be in the best interest of all of us. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the resolution of the former national confab should either be adopted or brought forward for further debate and subsequent adoption. I wish to thank every one of you for coming to this very, very important occasion and coming to our dear state. May the good Lord bless every one of you, and I wish you all journey mercies back to your various destinations. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, the Governor of Delta State, Honorable Elder Sheriff Oboriwori, here represented by his deputy, Sir Monday Onyeme. Please put your hands together for him for that phenomenal remark from the Delta State government, which shows a huge support for Wellman and industrialization of the oil and gas hub, which is Warri in Delta State. Ladies and gentlemen, Your Excellency, former President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, on the 20th of November, His Excellency Dr. Goodluck Ebele Jonathan marked his birthday. And in a surprise birthday package, the Wellman Group, headed by its chairman, Deacon Cyril Umaru, is going to bring His Excellency the President to cut his birthday cake. That's the birthday cake of the former President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Dr. Goodluck Ebele Jonathan. Oh, that's Wellman. Okay, that's Wellman. His Excellency's birthday cake is coming up. That's Wellman at 20. Two decades of operational excellence. Deacon Chris Yowari, ladies and gentlemen. I think I have to come and be schooled on how to pronounce Yoruba names perfectly, ladies and gentlemen. I'm only stopping by. Thank you. Thank you. So you will pardon me. Okay. It's a day of double celebration, celebrating Wellman Group at 20, and also the former president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, His Excellency Dr. Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, who turned a year older on the 20th of November, 2024. Your Excellency, please, you may approach the table to cut your cake. Ably followed by the Deputy Governor of Delta State, His Excellency Sir Monday Onyeme, and the Chairman, Wellman Group, Deacon Cyril Iyowaye. Okay, and his darling wife, please. Mrs. Oh, Deaconess. Okay, the representative of the... Here around. Oh, okay. His Royal Majesty Major General Felix Mujakpero, the Chairman Delta State Traditional Rulers Council, and the Orope of Okwe. Oroje of Okwe, I beg your pardon.
Mistakes can be made. We can also be corrected. We also like to have our dear lady, Her Excellency, Her Excellency Arikana Chihombori Ko. Thank you. We also like to have Dr. Henrietta to be part of the picture taken. We also want distinguished Senator Benson Agadaga. I'd like to have the Danrime of Zao Zao, Alhaji Jubril. We also like to have Professor Sam Oyowari.
You've been watching the Wellman Group 2024 Colloquium taking place at Efuru, Delta State with the theme, The Coast to Coast X-Ray of the Nigerian Project, What Panacea? The event, which is meant to foster dialogue and collaboration among key stakeholders to explore viable solutions for the nation's future, was attended by several thought leaders and industry experts. The event also featured an impressive lineup of speakers, including Dr. Arikana Chihombori, Mr. Peter Obi, Dr. Moses Umaru, Mike Ozekhome, SAN, amongst others. The event was chaired by former Nigerian President Dr. Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, with the Delta State Governor Sheriff Oborewori, who was represented by his deputy, serving as a special guest of honor.